I'm going to say for the final, I'm going to keep saying this like a broken Durham record. These brain dead people are still in black 66 space, Twitter space, and they keep on saying this darn word, white supremacy. How in hell do you expect to liberate your brain and your mind if you keep on saying the word white supremacy? I have suggested to you folks to call it white evil. That's what they should have called it from the jump street. Imagine how things would have turned out differently if everyone would have been saying white evil all of these decades and centuries. Just imagine that for a few seconds. Just imagine it. If everybody would have went around saying white evil instead of white supremacy, just imagine how the history would have turned out. But y'all persons claim that you want freedom. You claim that you want freedom and liberation. But every opportunity you get, you keep saying the word white supremacy. Subconsciously, unconsciously, you start believing that. You can deny it. You can deny that you don't believe it, and you can shape the narrative that it's an ideology or whatever that little word that y'all want to call it. But your enemy is sitting back and listening. That you think in your little brain, they sitting back listening to you. Refer to them as being white supremacy. No, they white evil. They are white evil. White evil. Let's say it together. Let's all say it together. White evil. Practice. Stand in front of the darn mirror and practice saying white evil. And see how much better you feel. See how much better you feel after you say that a couple of times. I just don't quite understand you folks. And that's one of the things that Black 666 friend Aeon got upset with me about. That word and hate is the reason why we had our disagreement. It was no reason to have a disagreement about it. We had two different perspectives. I chose not to use the word over my lifetime. Rarely did it come out my mouth. To the point now that I can almost say that I would not say that darn word out my mouth unless I'm speaking on it, because folks are being programmed to keep repeating the darn word. But I have chosen well before I ever heard of a social media app not to use the darn word. There's no one on this earth supreme to me. I am supreme to me. Uno. That's the only understanding that I've ever had. I can't lie to you. I have never thought of anyone being supreme to me. I can't even try to wrap my brain around that one. I really can't. But I just hope you adults will start correcting yourself, because your children and grandkids are hearing you talk. And they're going to grow up subconsciously and consciously thinking that folks who call themselves white are superior to them. That's why my mother didn't program us that way. She did not program us that way. Now, she gave us the lowdown. She gave us the lowdown on this evil world that we were living in and we were growing up in, but she never described it that way. She gave us the lowdown every single day of our life, to the point that she had a famous quote: "I am preparing you for the real world. I am preparing you for the real world." That was my mother's famous quote. Oh no, she wasn't gonna be saying no darn word called white supremacy. That never came out of her mouth. That never came out of her mouth. I would have remembered it. It never came out of her mouth. So, for each his own. For each his own. If you folks want to continue to program your children and grandkids, keep on saying it. Just keep right on repeating it out your mouth. And you can be guaranteed that your children and grandkids are going to grow up subconsciously and consciously believing that these persons who have pink skin and pale skin are superior to them. That's the only reason why these pink people and pale people came up with the word white and black, because they wanted to feel superior. They wanted to feel superior, and they could see the writing on the wall that slavery was getting ready to come to an end, backdated. Because in the Negro space on Twitterland, a lady by the name of Sage Dream, she did the research on that little tidbit. They've been wrapped in that word called white for over 200 years. And when you backdate it, it takes you back just past around 1840. Right around the time that slavery was getting ready to come to an end. And you folks are helping them stay wrapped in that little word. You are helping them stay wrapped in that little word. They wanted to feel superior. And every time you say that word out your mouth, you give confirmation. You give confirmation that they wanted to feel superior. And they know they got you thinking they are superior. And you don't need to give them confirmation. They are evil. They are evil. Just practice saying the word evil, and I guarantee you, you're going to feel a lot better. You're going to feel a lot liberated, and you're going to feel a lot closer to your freedom. That's just my little 2 cents. That's just my little 2 cents. So, Back Blackness 666 is in there preaching the word white supremacy. And all of you folks who say that word out your mouth, you know who you are. You know who you are. You in the same boat with him. You put yourself there. You put yourself there, and you just floating down the stream. You're floating down the stream without a paddle. You can get out that boat anytime you feel like it. Anytime you feel like it, you can jump out of that boat and swim back to shore. You ain't got to stay in that boat floating down that stream without a paddle. You just got to jump out of it and say, I'm going to abolish that word white supremacy. I'm going to abolish it. I don't need the Congress. I don't need the Senate approval. I'm going to stamp it myself every day I get up. Every day I get up, every time I get ready to say that word out of my mouth, I'm going to catch myself. And I'm going to abolish it. It may take a while. It may take a while to be unprogrammed, but it's worth it. It's worth it. But the biggest blow that you can give your enemy is to abolish white and black. Their little world will crumble. You won't see it. I won't see it. They already starting to speak differently. They already done started speaking differently, because they starting to hear folks abolish that word white. They even starting to say out their own mouth, I'm German, I'm Italian, I'm Irish, I'm this. They even starting to say it out their own mouth. Their little world, their little perfect world is crumbling, but it's going to take some work. It's going to take probably some decades to let that little perfect world that they have built for over 200 years come crumbling down. It needs to crumble to the ground. Along with a lot of other debts that America owed. America owed a debt. America owed a debt a special field order 15 and direct cash payments from the IRS, and they need to put Negro back on that census report. That's what they need to do. And I have already threatened to withhold my vote if those 3 demands are not delivered before October. If they are not delivered, I will follow through with my threat. Now, I know I have the ability to change my mind the day before if I'm still alive. If I am still alive, I have the option to change my mind the day before the last day to vote. I have the ability and the option to change my mind the last hour that you have to vote. I have that option, but my enemy don't need to know that. My enemy don't need to know if I decide to change my mind. They need to roll the dice and pray to God I do go vote. But you folks you brain dead folks wake up day after day committing suicide. You're so happy to tell your enemy that you're looking forward to voting for them. What bizarre thing is that? Who in God's name told you people to go out there on that suicide mission? Y'all need to find that person and deal with them. Because somebody must have told you to volunteer for that suicide mission. Because I have lived for 62 years. Why would you help your enemy have any more advantage over you? They got enough advantage. They don't need your help. They don't need you to help them have more advantage over you by you telling them who you want to vote for and that you're looking forward to voting. Why do you think you need to help them in that way? Why do you folks feel the need and that you can't help yourself waking up day after day announcing, I'm looking forward to voting for the Republicans. I'm looking forward to voting for the Democrats. I'm looking forward to voting for the Independents. Why do you feel the need to announce that? Why in God's name do you feel the need to announce that? No, something ain't adding up. Something's not adding up. The mental scars and trauma and the hostile environment that all of us have been birthed into, it is really damaging a lot of folks more than some. It is really damaging a lot of folks more than others, and that's unfortunate. But that's just the way human beings are. There's no 2 human beings the same. No, nothing is going to affect 2 human beings the same way. And it's painful to watch adults commit this level of suicide when they don't have to do it. They don't have to volunteer to do it. It's really sad because they don't have to do it. No one got a gun to your head asking you or demanding you to volunteer to commit this level of suicide. God gave each one of us an opportunity to demand our justice once and for all. God made this possible. No human being could have made it possible, but God made it possible for us to have an opportunity to demand our justice by threatening to withhold our vote. That's all we had to do. That's all we had to do for the past year or 2 was to send one clear message that we was going to withhold that vote, because after this election, your vote won't matter. It don't matter anyway, but at least we had the ball in our court, because both sides want to win this election more than anything else, more than their next breath. This only comes around maybe once in your lifetime, if never. God made that possible. God made that possible. The first time this came around was when the ancestors were given an opportunity to fight in the Civil War for their freedom. They were given the first opportunity for justice and freedom. Excuse me. God gave each of us a second opportunity to finish what our ancestors fought and died for and sacrificed for 246 years. The hell that they went through for those that died and those that survived. God gave each of us a second opportunity to demand our justice and our humanity and our human rights. He gave each of us that opportunity. And you adults are volunteering to walk into that booth and give your vote away and walk back out empty-handed. Now, some of you persons who are positioned good, you're going to get a good job. You're going to get an IOU, and you can call it in anytime you feel like it. This conversation is not for your ears. You are financially secured, like Mark King Carter and Chicago Red. They are not in the same position as my people in the ghetto and the projects in the hood. They'll never go back to that life if they ever went through it. And they have every right. Mark King Carter and Chicago Red have every right to position themselves the way they choose to. But they are not in the same position as you may be in. And seeing as how they're not, they should not be running around here telling their people to go vote. Because now it's criminal. It's criminal because these people that are Caucasians, Asians, Latinos, and Mexicans, they have already signed a contract with each other to share power. All of us are 4 years late. They got the majority. They own and control 25 states. Out of the 27 that's left over, we only have a sizable population in 8. So when you do the simple math, they control 44 out of 52. And they really control those other 8 if we don't show a backbone and threaten to withhold our vote. You see how that works? You see how you try to take advantage of the opportunity that God has given each of us because they control 44 of the 52 states. Our little vote should be used as a weapon to be a swing vote, to demand our rights, to demand our protection, to demand our human rights, to demand our self-respect. But you adults are not setting that example because you know how to do the math. Every one of us that's an adult know how to go to Google and do a search and get a breakdown of the population in each of these 52 states, so you don't have to run around here and lie to people. So you're doing it deliberately now. You're doing it deliberately, and that is why you are a criminal. Because you have the ability to go to Google search and look at that breakdown of the population in all 52 states, so you don't get on a public app or be in person lying to people, because the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. So while you are lying and telling your people and giving them false hope, you are doing it deliberately. So again, every Negro, every Black American, every melanated person should have threatened and gotten organized for the past year or two. You had 2 years to get organized, to threaten to withhold your vote. If they did not deliver on those demands that were made, then the consequences would be, more than likely, folks wouldn't go vote. If that didn't do the job, a boycott. But y'all folks not doing that. Y'all are volunteering to give your vote away. All because you running your candidates, you voting on policies, you running your candidate, you voting on policy. You can vote on policies until you blue in the face. Who's going to implement them? Is it going to be a racist person, or is it going to be an honest person? Do you know? Do I know? Do you know? Do I know whether it's going to be a racist person or an honest person? I don't know. The odds are 50-50. The odds are 50-50. And your candidate, you can get a couple of victories of your candidates winning, but you can't undo the number count, the number breakdown. You don't have a population, you don't have the majority in 44 states. In 44. So no matter how many candidates that you run, you can't invent a population in states that you don't have the majority in. So how do you convince people with that lie? That's the thing I don't understand. That's the thing I just cannot understand. How do you convince people of that lie? You can run every candidate that you can find and pray to God they win, but you cannot invent a population that you don't have. The Caucasians and the Asians and the Latinos and the Mexicans have the majority, let's say the word majority, in 44 states. 44. So no matter how many candidates that you try to run, you're not going to have the numbers in your favor. It don't add up. I don't know how you do that kind of math to give you any real voice or real power as far as legislation. I don't know how you convince adults to believe that lie, but math, you can't make that math make sense because it's not real. But you folks are listening to it. Y'all swallowing it. Y'all are swallowing it. Every bit of it. When you simply know how to go to Google and do your own search, it won't even take a whole day. It won't even take a whole day for you to look at the breakdown of the population per state and know for yourself that your vote don't matter. But your vote does matter for the short window of time before you walk in there and walk out. That's the only length of time that your vote matter. That part, they're telling you the truth. Because your little vote and my little vote may give their person on their team 10 extra votes. It may give their person on their team 20 extra votes. It may give their person 30 extra votes. That's the length of time that you matter and I matter. Other than that, it don't exist. It's all in your head. Because that's the only purpose that your vote and my vote serves. So if I know that my enemy is using me for that purpose, then don't it make common sense for me to demand something up front? Unless I don't care about myself, unless I don't love myself, then I would not demand something up front. Because once I walk out of that booth, I cease to exist. But if I demand something for my vote up front, that's going to be a fair exchange. That's going to be a fair exchange. If you think my vote is important enough to you, then you should give me something for it. You giving everybody else something. And I can see it with my own two eyes. I can see it with my own two eyes that you're giving everyone else something. So why should I give you my vote on an empty promise that you're going to you're going to fix immigration. You can't fix immigration because y'all made it. Both you Republicans and Democrats made it. How can you undo your own evil? You can't undo your own evil. Plus, you're 4 years late. You're 4 years late. And they still having babies. And they still have family members turning 18. So how you plan to undo that with your little vote? All you little smart people, all you little smart, intelligent folks and common sense folks, how do you intend to undo that? How you intend to undo their voting block that Joe Biden told you about in 2020? Didn't y'all hear about it? You shouldn't have needed Joe Biden to tell you that. All you should have had to do was go to Google again and do your own search. You didn't have to listen to the words coming out of Joe Biden's mouth. All you simply had to do was go to Google and do a search and get the breakdown of the population in all 52 states, and you would have needed to hear Joe Biden tell you that. He told you as clear as the nose on your face that the Latinos and the Mexicans have their voting block locked down, and they proved that in Texas and Virginia. Did y'all not hear about those elections? I guess you didn't. I guess you didn't hear about it, but they talked about it for a little while. So y'all folks are 4 years late. You're 4 years late, and nothing can't change that. When you wake up on the 6th of November, the Caucasians and the Asians and the Latinos and the Mexicans are still going to have their contract in place that they have agreed to share power. And I can't change that. I don't have to lie about that. They showing you proof that they have agreed to share power by hiring these immigrants on the police force and letting them in the military. How much more clear can they make it? Oh, just to make it absolutely clear to you, they paying the invaders. What country pays invaders? Can anyone name any other nation that pay invaders? So those three things alone should tell you that your vote don't matter, that they have signed a contract with each other to share power. And you ain't going to change that on the 5th of November. Donald Trump is not going to change that, because Donald Trump don't have the ability to deport legal immigrants. Legal immigrants locked up the voting block in 2020. And they have had many persons turn 18 since 2020. And they still having babies. And they still having babies. So if you are lucky to deport half of the immigrants that you can find, half, because you're going to have to hunt them down. You're going to have to hunt them down and find them and then deport them. You can deport each one you can find. It's still not going to undo the legal immigrants. So why are you lying to yourself? Why are you lying? Why are you choosing to lie to yourself? It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt your children. And it's going to hurt your grandkids. And you don't have to do that. But y'all choosing to do it. For some reason, you're choosing to do it. And I think it's because there's a lot of variables. There are certain persons who are positioned good and voting works for them. And that's no denying that. There are certain human beings that walk around day after day that are impacted by voting in this corrupt system in a positive way. It's no denying that. But that's not helping those persons who are becoming homeless, who are going to bed hungry, who are jobless, who are ending up in prison, who are ending up getting gunned down by Jim Crow police. That voting process is not helping those persons. They are expendable. Now, for those of you who are impacted in a positive way, because you are, there's no line about that part. There are and there have always been a certain percent of people and persons that are impacted positively by voting. But there's always been that certain percent of persons who are impacted negatively by voting. And that's never going to change as long as this corrupt system is in place. The oligarchy is the big kicker. That's the main folks at the top. They've been in charge since 1981. They control the government, they own it, and they have power over it. They own it, they control it, and they have power over it since 1981 up to the present day. And again, you folks should have done their research on this because it's not a secret. It's not a secret. The oligarchy we have been under the control of the oligarchy since 1981. And there have only been 2 other times that the America has been under the control of the oligarchy. The first time was during slavery. We all know about Negro slavery. That was the first time that we experienced the oligarchy system. Number 2, the Industrial Revolution. We all learned about the Industrial Revolution. That was the second time. Now we are currently under the third one, and it started in 1981 up to the present day. And there's only 2 nations that are under the oligarchy system, Russia and America. Those are the only 2 nations that operate under the oligarchy current date. They were so elite. America and Russia was such an elite nation. They were the only 2 nations that made the cut. That just blows your mind. It just completely blows your mind to think that all these nations, out of all these nations, only 2 could make the cut. Russia and America. That tells you all you need to know. That tells you all you need to know if you got a brain. If you got a brain in your head, that should be all you need to know. But again, it's going to be those folks who are going to pretend like it's not real because they're not impacted. Those persons in the bracket, in the top 10% bracket, they okay. Those persons in the top 90% bracket, they okay. They living a good life. Those persons in that 80% bracket, they living a good life. They're not impacted. Those persons in that 70% bracket, they living a good life. They're not impacted quite yet. Those in that 60% bracket, they starting to feel the pain. They starting to feel the pain. They starting to feel the pain. Those in that 50% bracket, they feeling the pain. They feeling the pain. Those in that 40% bracket, they barely keeping their head above water. They barely keeping their head above water. And those in the 30% bracket and on down, they expendable. They have already been wrote on Bill Gates' chalkboard as expendable. They part of that number count for that reduced population. They have already been calculated as part of that reduced population. They have already been dying for the past 3.5 years or more. So they have already been counted in that reduced population number count. If you are in that 30% bracket, that's unfortunate. And these folks who are running around here caping for the Republicans and the Democrats and the Independents, they don't care about you. They know good and darn well those laws and policies are not going to trickle down to you. They may get to some people, but they don't get to the large enough numbers to have an impact. And they don't care about that. All they care about is they person got elected. that they talked enough people into coming out to vote, and they got their person across the finish line. And people know this, because again, all you have to do is go to Google and look at the number breakdown, and then just compare that with the 2020 election. And if you need to go back to another election, go to 2016, and believe what your eyes are looking at. It don't take much math. It don't take much math to figure it out that your vote don't count. It don't take much math to figure out your vote don't matter. The banks and the corporations are running this country. They made that. I don't know how many of them are part of that oligarchy. BlackRock is running this country. Rockefellers are running this country. The cartels are running this country. It could be Trump. It could be Biden. It could be the 13 colonies. It could be the KGC. It could be the KKK. It could be the Proud Boys. All of them could be part of the oligarchy. I don't know. But the oligarchy is a real thing. But as far as the members, the Pacific members by the name, I don't know that information. But I clearly have lived to be 62 years old. And I clearly know that anybody that look at the paper trail, you'll be able to follow the paper trail back to 1981 is when America started going downhill. Can't no one deny that. Now you can lie and tell yourself that lie, but the facts are out there. Anybody with a brain in their head can do the research and see the proof that America started going downhill in 1981. And that's right in line with the oligarchy taking control in 1981. So that's where we at, folks. That's where we at. If you adults don't demand to threaten to withhold your vote, this is more than likely going to be the last opportunity that you get to do it. Because the Republicans are working overtime to gerrymander these voting districts. They just completed that task in South Carolina, where I live. They just completed it, and they will be duplicating that in those other 26 states. So by the time midterm roll around, they will have already reshaped those voting districts so they can have control in those other 27. So this is the last opportunity that you're going to get to withhold your vote. Because by the time midterm roll around, the Republicans are going to have been on reshape those voting lines, so your vote not going to matter. Your vote is you're going to be pushed into a district for one melanated person. They're going to make sure they control most of the district. Well, they went to the Supreme Court, and now they control 6 out of the 7 districts in South Carolina. So I don't need nobody to tell me that the state of South Carolina is not going to be passing any legislation that's positive for my well-being. I don't need anyone's help to understand that. They didn't go to all that trouble to go all the way to the Supreme Court to get that unfair advantage not to use it. And they're going to do that same thing in these other 26 states before midterm. Before midterm roll around, they will have done that in all of the other 26 states. That's why you brain dead adults need to get in touch with Black majority state migration and help in his support team and figure out if you can relocate to one of those 8 states, because they are very busy to take control of those. So we're running out of time. We are running out of time. So for all you folks who are gun-ho and looking forward to voting, I just can't even find my words. I really can't find the right words. All I'm going to say over and over like a broken record, if you have a backbone, you'll be threatened to withhold your vote and try to pray to God that you get something, you get demands before this election. That is what all of these persons who are telling somebody to go vote, that is what every adult should be working on to organize. You still got a little bit of time. You may can pull it off. You maybe can pull it off if you put in the work. It'll be a Hail Mary, but it may can still get pulled off. If you folks wake up tomorrow and the next day and dedicate every waking moment to get organized, to send that threat, they just may come to the table and deliver on the 2 or 3 demands before the election. You just may be able to pull it off if you got enough backbone to try it. If you got enough backbone to try it, you just may be able to pull it off. But all those folks who've been preaching voting for the past year and a half, they should have started it back then. When I heard them talking about it on Clubhouse in 2022, that's when they should have been organizing for it. From the moment I heard them on Clubhouse, they should have been preaching the threat to withhold a vote. But they weren't doing that. They were just so gun-ho and happy to volunteer to give their vote away. But they had an opportunity to preach that to their people in their community for well over 2 years. For well over 2 years, they had an opportunity to preach that 24/7 to their people, to their self, to their family members, and everyone in between. They had an opportunity to do that, but they chose not to do it. And I think the reason why that happened is because the only folks who are engaged in this political process, this corrupt political process, got layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of corruption, are those persons who are benefiting from it. Those persons who are mentally checked out, their day-to-day life is not being impacted by the voting process. They have already mentally checked out. I checked out personally myself after volunteering for Obama's campaign and John Kerry's. I'm not going to be ashamed to admit it. I checked out mentally. And it's just I'm not gonna vote for my own demise when I know how to do math. I'm not gonna walk into no voting booth and vote for my own demise when I clearly know how to do math. I clearly know that the deck is stacked against me. Whether I vote for the Republicans or the Democrats, the deck is stacked against me. So why would I volunteer to go in there and vote for my demise? I did it for 30 years. I did it for 30 years, and nobody is going to shame me or fearmonger me into walking in there and voting for my own demise. I have done that long enough. I don't need anybody's help. For the rest of you folks who still have to figure that out, have at it. Have at it. But I don't need no one to help me to understand that I don't need to volunteer to walk in there and vote for my demise. I've done a thorough job of that for well over 30 years. I've done a thorough job of voting for my own demise for well over 30 years. I don't need to give the Republicans, the Democrats, or the independents any more help to harm me and my well-being. I don't need to give them one more day of help to harm me and to affect my well-being. So I'm clear. I am clear on that. There's a lot of things I'm still trying to figure out, but that's not one of them. That's not one of them. I was confused and I was uneducated for 30 years. Well, I have taken out quite a bit of time to do my research and to better educate myself. And since I did that, I'm not confused. See how simple that is? Okay, folks, I'm getting off of here. I'm going to go back and listen to some more lies out of Back Black 666 mouth. I'm going to go listen to some more of his lies before I go to sleep because I've been up. I've been up since what time did I wake up? I woke up somewhere around 3 a.m., 3 or 4 a.m. So I've been up since about 4 a.m. And I'll probably have to lay back down and get a quick nap and get back up and get busy. But I think I'm going to pop in there on my anonymous account and listen to some more of his lies for a little while. So y'all have a good day. Y'all have a good day and keep safe and keep out of harm's way. Take it easy.
by summer 2024. Your participation in this process is really important. It is going to help us improve the way federal agencies safely and accurately collect and use information on the race and ethnicity of our diverse America. So please help us get it right. I want to thank everybody who's joined us today for the town hall, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts and perspectives. Here with me is Bob Savinsky, the chair, and Karen Battle, the co-chair of the Interagency Technical Working Group on the Race and Ethnicity Standards. They're going to give you some